CHAMPS Sports Network studio for a special edition of Extra Innings. I'm your host, Elizabeth Kuhn, here with our baseball analyst, Mark Stroia, and our special guest, Dan Griesbaum. He is the head coach of Grosse Pointe South and the All-Star Game chairman. So it's so great to have you in the studio with us today.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to coming here every year.
So the All-Star rosters were just released this past weekend, and our first game at 4 o'clock at Comerica Park. You know, what are you really looking forward to seeing in this one?
Well, the D2, D3 players in this game are very good players. There's Jordan Arsenault, very good pitcher from Grosse Pointe North. You've got several kids who are going to Wayne State, Northwood, Saginaw Valley. All of these are excellent players on both teams. You've got kids from Traverse City and Ian Robertson, all the way down to Saline and Detroit Edison. Davion Williams from Detroit Edison playing in the 4 o'clock game for the East. You've got some Zeeland players, Easton Remick from Zeeland East. Again, a lot of excellent players from D2 schools that are playing in the 4 o'clock game.
Absolutely, and Mark, we've talked about some of these schools and some of these players throughout the season on Extra Innings. So what are you really looking forward to seeing, moving forward?
Well, I'm just looking forward to seeing a lot of good talent at the game. Usually they switch pitchers every inning, and every guy they bring in is committed somewhere usually, and so they'll be throwing strikes, they'll be throwing hard. Hitters, you'll have the best hitters in the state going up against some of the best pitchers, and it just makes for a really good game through and through. It's a really competitive game, and I'm just looking forward to it.
Absolutely, and moving on to the second game at 7 o'clock, what are you guys really looking forward to seeing in this one? Some of the players that are sticking out to you, what do you see?
Well, again, these are, as I said, all D1 players. So you're going to see pitchers throwing upper 80s, low 90s. You're going to see some excellent fielding. You're going to see some speed. It's just going to be a excellent baseball game with two very talented squads who have 13 D1 players on each side, and it's really going to be a very competitive game. We've got players from Clemson, Alabama, Michigan State, Pittsburgh, West Virginia, many D1 schools throughout the country, and it's going to be a great game.
Absolutely, Mark. We talked a lot about pitching throughout the season, but obviously there's going to be a lot of everything in all of these games. So what do you think is going to stick out most, defensively, offensively in this game?
Well, like we already talked about, there's a lot of good pitchers. Some of these guys I have the opportunity to see firsthand. Easton Story out of Brighton is committed to Purdue. The kid was lights out the last month of the season. I mean, he was virtually untouchable. You have him, you have like Luke Cole, a New Boston Huron, committed to Appalachian State. He was on a staff at New Boston Huron that had 3 really good pitchers. Clay Hargy, maybe the best catcher in the state. He could hit the ball, he's got a cannon for an arm. Evan Lingolis from Woodhaven hits the ball, he's off to Wayne State this year. So just looking for the opportunity for these kids to show their talent one last time at the high school level.
Absolutely.
And usually good pitching wins out over good hitting, but it'll be interesting to see if that's the case for this game, because there are some kids on these teams that really pound the ball. They're going to be formidable, definitely.
So we talked about a lot of these guys are committed college-wise. There will be a lot of MLB scouts in the stands. So you never know, a kid that's maybe borderline, he comes out and he has a good game in the All-Star game. Maybe he gets a better offer for MLB. So we'll see.
And the draft now being in July, we usually lost a few players to this game because the draft was in June. Some of the kids were not able to play in the game, but for the most part, we have everybody here. There are a few that had to leave early for college. Amari Snowden, football, Wisconsin. Drew Titsworth from Frankenmuth had to leave early. From Orchard Lake, St. Mary's, Jason Oliver had to leave early as well. So we do have most of the players here, whereas before we may have lost a few to the draft.
Absolutely, and you talk about more of these players being able to be there. I mean, they're at Comerica Park. Just how special is that, and how do you think that these guys are going to feel, stepping out on that field?
Well, usually they get there early, and they, the coaches give them time just to play catch and to go out to the outfield, go down by the warning track, just get a good sense of how the field is, check out the locker rooms and that. So it's going to be a big thrill for these kids. I mean, some of them have played there before. There are some high school games that are scheduled at Comerica Park, but a lot of them haven't.
Yeah.
And this might be their only time. So it's a big thrill for them. And yeah, so I'm sure they're all looking forward to it. And there's going to be some nerves, you know, because they're playing against quality, every position, and the kids that are quality players just like themselves. So they're going to be excited, but they're going to be a little nervous too.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to a couple of very good baseball games down at Comerica.
And especially the kids who come from up north and other parts of the state
Absolutely.
who maybe have never been there.
Yeah.
It really is a thrill for them, definitely.
And for fans who want to come watch the game, how do you go about, getting into Comerica Park, getting tickets? How do you go about that?
It's all at the door. Admission is all at the door. And this year, the admission charge is $15, but it includes our program book. It's an excellent keepsake of the event for all the families involved. Kids 12 and under are only $5. That does not include the book. And any Little League teams that come in with their uniforms on, they get in free. So hopefully we'll get several Little League teams that want to come in. And everybody will enter at the main gate with the big tiger. And we'll also be introducing at the game the Hall of Fame class for 2023, the assistant coaches of the year, as well as Mr. Baseball.
We're going to take a quick timeout and toss it to Lauren Plant with this week's In the Dugout.
I'd like to find out, what has been your coaching journey? What has that been like up to this point? How'd you get into it? And then who has been influential in helping you along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of alluded to it a little bit. Obviously, my dad, right?
Yeah.
I think Rich had a huge part of that. Rich was kind of like almost a second dad to me in college. I had a great childhood, but I think there was a bond that formed there. I still talk to Rich quite often, like once a month kind of thing, or once every couple months. I love Rich. Rich knew how to drive the right result in my mind. He pushed the right buttons, for me anyway. And he knew how to kind of get the most out of me. And I think that was always fascinating. So I went back and I coached at U of M as the volunteer assistant for a year. I really thought I was going to be a college coach. And then ultimately after 1 year kind of experiencing that, really kind of decided that this probably wasn't for me and my family. And I think the recruiting and all the things that people don't see about college coaching, I think for me personally just wasn't going to be a good fit. So I still had an itch to coach, and I really felt like, my wife grew up in Dexter. I wanted to come back, and I wanted to, any community that I'm a part of, I want to make sure that I give back to it. And so I came back to Dexter. We settled in Dexter, and my wife again grew up here. And so we decided that let's coach in Dexter as long as we can, and create and develop a program as best we can, and then go from there. So it's been a really good ride. And I would say from an influential perspective, I'd say Rich has been really impactful. Again, Ray Schlegel, Kevin Weekly, my dad, those are the guys. I've read a ton of books. Obviously, you read the Wooden and the Anson Dorrance from North Carolina soccer. And, you read about all these different coaches. And I'd like to kind of do some of that type of stuff about culture building and team building and that type of stuff. And you can glean little nuggets from everybody. So, yeah.
To check out that full interview, just head on over to the State Champs YouTube page. All you need to do is search State Champs Net. We want to give a big thank you to everyone who put on this event and made this all possible.
Absolutely. We'd like to give a big shout out to the Coaches Association and the coaches that work extremely hard to put this event on to make it a great experience for these kids. Having been there before as an umpire, I know the work that goes into it, and it's a first-class event. And yeah, these coaches just do a great job on their own time to do this, and we'd just like to thank you guys.
Absolutely, and playoffs are in full swing. Coach, how you feeling headed into the playoffs?
Always optimistic.
Absolutely.
Always. The state playoffs are not always about who's the best team. It's about who plays well on a given day. And just remember when we won it in 18, we were not on anybody's radar to be a state champ. And I fully expect there'll be some upsets in the tournament. It always happens. Division I is, as everyone has said, wide open. There's so many good teams in Division I. Division II, University Liggett, Bay City John Glenn, Stevensville Lakeshore, D3 Detroit Edison, Algonac. There's just some great teams out there right now that could be favorites, but again, single elimination, anything can happen.
Absolutely. We wanted to wish you good luck the rest of the season, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Elizabeth.
Yeah, we really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Mark, thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you guys next week on another episode of Extra Innings. State Champs Extra Innings is presented by Lawrence Technological University. Be curious. Make magic. Visit ltu.edu. Extra Innings is also brought to you by the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. The Michigan Army National Guard, a proud sponsor of the MHSAA. The Michigan High School Baseball Coaches Association. For information on awards, clinics, rankings, and this year's All-Star Games, visit mhsbca.org. The Detroit Athletic Club Foundation Male and Female Athlete of the Year Awards, who will be this year's award winners. Find out live June 5th, only on the State Champs Sports Network.